Hello, thank you for joining us on this beautiful Saturday, and welcome to the very first broadcast of the Fantasy Points Tailgate. We have the honor of carrying you into the early college football kickoffs, where we will discuss our DFS recommendations, of course, any breaking lineup or injury news that we happen to see prior to kickoff to the early kickoff, and we will also go over our against the spread picks, even some monkey knife fight props. We'll also try to answer a few questions in Discord if we have time at the end. And the show wouldn't be complete without my co-host, Josh Chevalier. We've been competing together in CFF for more than half a decade. So Josh, how is life? And how pumped are you that we have 5 real meaningful football games to enjoy today?
Man, week 0, I'm so pumped. It feels like Christmas Day. I was talking to somebody today and they said they woke up at 4 a.m. and couldn't go back to sleep because it felt like Christmas. And I'm not going to lie. I went to bed real late last night and woke up real early, excited for today. So pumped.
Well, definitely make sure you check out Josh's DFS article that's up over at fantasypoints.com. He's going over all of his cash and single entry plays. So, but yeah, let's jump right into this. We got a lot to cover, and we're going to run out of time here. So let's start with Nebraska, Illinois. So 1:20 p.m. Eastern start. Nebraska's favored by 7 right now, 52.5 total. They're playing at Memorial Stadium, Champaign, Illinois. Sunny, 87 degrees, 8-mile-per-hour winds. Josh, who are you eyeing for the Cornhuskers today?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the Cornhuskers, the big one for me would be Adrian Martinez. And really, he's a risky proposition for us, right? Because he's so turnover prone, but he also is a big play waiting to happen. And that he's only $6,800 on DraftKings, and so he's a good value there. We're also looking at the running backs, right? I mean, we're trying to figure out who's going to start. And
big reveal there, right?
Yeah, and as of now, I believe Husker pregame radio has said that Gabe Ervin's going to be the starter. So excited for that. Earlier in the week, Matt Lubick said 20 to 26 carries is what is ideal for their main guy. Man, that's a lot to put on a true freshman, but if it happens, I mean, he's a big hit.
Yeah.
So those are the two that I'm looking at primarily.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely big. There were some concerns. I mean, there are some concerns for me because Lubick did say that each of his 3 guys are going to get some touches between Gabe Ervin, Sevion Morrison, and Marquise Stepp, the USC transfer. Morrison, former 4-star, Ervin, the big guy that they got this year, and helped his high school to back-to-back state championships. Didn't put up video game numbers in high school, but it was quality over quantity. And and he's also he's a track guy, so I mean he's got some speed.
Right.
So, that's exciting. There's another guy like, the passing game. I know, it's pretty volatile there with Martinez, but I do like Samori Torre, the transfer that came over from the FCS. I think, he's going to be working out of the slot. He's only he was pretty cheap over there. I've got my captain mode open. Let's see, Torre is sitting at 4,900, which isn't too bad.
Right.
So I think he's somebody that could be targeted early. So, he's somebody I got an eye on. But all right, let's jump over to the next game. We got Connecticut at Fresno State. 2 p.m. Eastern start. Fresno State is favored by 27.5 points. And let's keep in mind, Connecticut, they didn't play last year. They opted out for, COVID reasons. We're concerned about their students. But, that 27.5 points, man, the Vegas is not liking them. 63-point total, which is, I believe, the highest on the slate. Yeah. So, I mean, that's incredible there. And it's going to be a blistering 100 degrees at game time with a heat advisory, negligible winds. What do you think about that, Josh?
Man, that's crazy. I mean, it's hard not to like Fresno State in that game, right? I mean, between the heat and I think just the incredible offense they had last year. And so I'm definitely all in on Fresno. I mean, last time we saw UConn, they were starting, 9 of 11 true freshmen in 2019. And I don't think it's going to get much better for them this year. And so, easy sledding. I think they were ranked defensively. Connecticut was ranked 93rd against opposing quarterbacks. And then they were ranked 123rd against opposing running backs. And so there's just a lot of value here for Fresno State players, whether it's Ronnie Rivers or Jake Hayner. I think both of us like Josh Kelly at 4,400 on DraftKings. I think that's a really good value as pretty much the wide receiver too. Jalen Cropper, wide receiver one, dominant wide receiver one there. He's only $7,300. And so I think the only fear for us, right, is that if this turns out to a blowout early and they take out the starters, then that could be a little bit of a concern. But Kevin DeBoer, the head coach there, he's known for keeping the starters in late. So they really could produce more than what a typical blowout would. So those are the guys I'm looking at in that slate.
Yeah, definitely. We'll go back and cover Illinois. I skipped over them, but I definitely like those guys. And if we're going to go a little bit deeper, there's some values here as well. A guy that made a late push in the backfield there during camp for Fresno State is Malik Sherrod, another freshman. And he comes in at a value there at running back. Only $3,200. So, if there is a blowout, we could see him get some run. Of course, Jordan Mims would get some touches as well. And then another guy that came over from Washington, only a former 3-star. So, not the normal type of recruit that Washington gets, but he made his presence felt. And that's Ty Jones, wide receiver there. He made his presence immediately during their practices and scrimmages, and he comes in at only 3,900. So I think there's a lot of value all over the place, but you can't look past Jalen Cropper there, wide receiver one on the slate easily, and then the RB1 as well, Ronnie Rivers, and you can make the argument that Hayner could end up as the top scoring quarterback, but there's another Ken that we would need to factor as well. But let's jump back to Illinois, because I skipped over that one. So who do you like there with the Fighting Illini?
Man, the main player for me is Chase Brown there. He's $5,000 on DraftKings. I don't think, because of the other good quarterback or running backs on the slate, he's not going to be owned a ton. And it's Brett Bielema, right? My man loves to run the ball. So he would be a major one for me. And they had a lot of success last year against Nebraska as well, running the ball on the way to them blowing them out. So Chase Brown would be the main one. Another guy that I'd say a little bit of a flyer, but I really like him, is the former quarterback, Isaiah Williams, $5,000 on DraftKings. And I think he's going to be a guy they're going to feature in that offense. The coaching staff, loves him. It's how quickly can he convert over to wide receiver. But it seems like, from the things I read on 247 and other places, that he could be one of the focal points of the offense, certainly the passing game. What about you?
Yeah, definitely those two. I know you like Isaiah Williams. I think you liked him a lot more when he was coming in as a true freshman quarterback. But that's an interesting conversion there. The one thing, there is a new offensive coordinator with Illinois, Tony Peterson, coming over from Appalachian State. Which was more of a pro style tempo offense. So, but it sounds like they want to keep the spread option going there in Illinois, or the spread, excuse me. And and they have like a pro style quarterback in Brandon Peters. He's got a little bit of mobility, but not somebody that's going to take too many designed runs. I think Chase Brown is a great play. Last year against Nebraska, he ran for 110 yards and two touchdowns. So, he's got a little bit of history there of doing well. And then they brought in Brian Hightower, Miami transfer. So, and about Miami. So what do you think of, tell us what you think about Brian Hightower? Because I'm having a hard time with projecting what I think he'll do today.
It's tough because it's Brandon Peters throwing the ball. You trust him downfield is tough. But I do think what Brian Hightower brings to the table is he's a 50-50 guy, right? He's going to catch those 50-50 balls. He's going to be a great red zone target. So I could definitely see him, in the red zone, being able to get a few catches and maybe a touchdown. So I think he does have real value. And so for me, it's a toss-up between him and Isaiah Williams. obviously you don't have both of them in your lineup, but I could
Yeah.
see something for both. Maybe more GPP play for somebody Ryan Hightower. He can score some touchdowns.
Yeah.
But he's talented, and he's probably the most talented receiver.
Yeah,
Sure.
I have a hard time rostering any of the Illinois wide receivers in my cash game lineup. But and then they got another guy that making a transition, a position switch, transfer for Notre Dame, Jafar Armstrong. I really don't know where he slots in on their depth chart. There's just there's not a lot. Of course they're impressed, but that's just coach speak. They say that about everybody, so it's really tough. And then another guy. I mean, is Mike Epstein gonna get inside this rotation? They have Chase Hayden, who former Arkansas, and then I believe he went over to Eastern Carolina, didn't do anything at running back. And so, we really don't know that rotation either. So that concerns me, plus the new offensive coordinator. I don't know. There's a lot of question marks with that Illinois offense. I would tread very carefully in cash games.
Yep. Agreed.
Okay, so let's jump over to one other thing I wanted to cover about Nebraska. Last year, Illinois ranked 116th against the run. So definitely want to consider take a long look at that running game, which Adrian Martinez would be included. But it's just the quarterback options are just so sexy on this slate. It's hard to get too excited about him, But let's go over to the Hawaii at UCLA matchup, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time start. I mean, this is the big one. And I was wrong. This is the one that has the highest over under, 67.5. UCLA is favored by 17.5, which I'm not so sure about. And they're going to be playing at the Rose Bowl, 96 degrees, 8-mile-per-hour winds. So getting a little closer to the wind, maybe factoring in slightly if they see any gusts, on passing attempts. So what do you think there? What do you think about Hawaii?
Yeah, I mean, Hawaii. I think this is going to be by far the most fun game on the match. Right? Definitely, you have a shootout potential here. And you mentioned the wind, and Cordero or DTR aren't great at Dorian Thompson-Robinson aren't great at throwing the ball downfield. So, man, I'm really loving both Cordero and Calvin Turner. They're guys that I want in my lineup because they're so affordable and they have pretty high floors consistently. So, you have, I think Calvin Turner, what was it? I think he's got something like, he hit 20 plus and pretty much, I think it's like 5 of his 8 games last year and hit 30 plus in 2 of them. And so he is a PPR machine. So on DraftKings, he's great. And I think he ran out over half of his snaps in the slot. So although he's listed as a running back, he's really who Cordero is looking to throw the ball to quite a bit. So I'm looking for Calvin Turner. He's almost a must-have in my lineup. And then Cordero at $7,500. And just what I think he can do against that defense with UCLA and a potential shootout. He's another one that I just want. Those Konami code quarterbacks are really tough not to have in DraftKings.
Yeah, absolutely. His ability to elevate his floor, Cordero, is just. I mean, you just can't put a price on that. I mean, you want that at in any type of football lineup, NFL or college. But I mean, you got to be impressed by the work that Todd and Bo Graham have done there with their run and gun. I mean, it's been just really impressive. And with Turner, I mean, they brought him over from the FCS, former quarterback, and he's pretty much, he's like their H back, they even list him as a running back / wide receiver. So we'll see him all over the place. He's going to get the ball. I mean, as much as he can handle, so he's even making some noise on the NFL front. So we might see some teams, checking him out during the draft process as well, which will likely be after this year. And it's so, like you said, these guys, Cordero's not really, he's not a guy that likes to throw the ball deep. So it's hard to get real excited about any of the wide receivers there. If you consider Turner a wide receiver other than him, and then their backfield, Cordero and Turner, they run so much that they're starting running back Day Hunter. I mean, he's just pretty much he's an easy fade. But let's jump over to UCLA. What do you think about the Bruins? Who are you looking at?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of their players are in play, almost all of them really. But Dorian Thompson-Robinson's another one who, man, he just puts up points. I think last year he averaged, I think it was like 27 points a game on Fantrax, and maybe 29 and a half actually. And that's including Stanford, where he got hurt in like the first quarter and only scored 7 points. So he's a monster in DFS. And he's a guy that I think he's a must-have in our lineup at $8,500. And he's going to put up points both on the ground and through the air. And then I think you have Britton Brown and Zach Charbonnet. Both of those guys are people that are worth considering. Seems like Chip Kelly, he loves to feature one running back. In fact, I think I wrote in the article that the top running back for Chip Kelly usually averages 23 touches a game. So, I'm going Britton Brown. I think he's definitely the RB1. It's not an or on the depth chart. And at $5,600, all he has to do is hit 20 points to really hit value. And then Kyle Phillips and Greg Dulcich, tight end and slot receiver, are the two wide receivers that I'm going after mainly, because that's who Dorian Thompson-Robinson, he relies on those guys. And I think that shows a lot about where he likes to throw the ball, over the middle to slot receiver, shorter passes. But I think you like a guy named Cam Brown a little bit, and maybe you can speak to him. But he's another one worth considering, considering his price tag. I think he's at $3,500 on DraftKings as well. So.
Yeah, I do like Cam Brown. He was a 4-star in 2019 for Texas A&M. He was also offered by Alabama. Top 25 wide receiver in the class. He comes over to kind of, I mean, I do like Kyle Phillips. And he's got the type of athleticism the NFL is gonna check out. But they really they haven't had anybody really blowing up for them at wide receiver in a while. Unless you include Demetric Felton there. But I considered him more of an H-back, running back type last year. So I think Cam Brown could come in and provide that type of playmaker. I mean, during his pre-college testing, he impressed pretty well. He doesn't have like the explosion of another guy we're going to talk about in a little bit, another transfer, but I do like the tight end Greg Dulcich. It's just so hard to fit him into the lineup since we want to go after two quarterbacks here, and then we also there's other guys that we got to squeeze in that lineup. And one more note on Turner, on Calvin Turner, Hawaii running back. The two games where he struggled last year were against easily the best run defenses there in the Mountain West of San Jose State, who we'll see later tonight, and Wyoming. So those are kind of games where he didn't come through, didn't provide value, but I think he's the kind of guy that you can project pretty well, so if he's going up against a Georgia or something, you definitely don't want to play him, but he's going up against the UCLA defense, who I think, they weren't as good as the 30th rank that they put up last year, but the good thing about Turner is he offsets any deficiency running the ball through the air, so that's great. And then the Rainbow Warriors, they were a top 15 pass defense last year, but like you said, Thompson Robinson, he's he's not a guy that's going to be throwing the ball a lot. He'll throw it. He'll check down a lot to Dulcich and Phillips, and that's where the ball is going to go mostly. But the rushing defense for the Rainbow Warriors was outside the top 100 last year. So that's definitely an area that they can attack there. I love Robinson here. I don't think you can have a cash game lineup. Of course, you can. I don't think you have a cash game lineup without him. But that's the thing that's so frustrating about college football. And like the one thing that I'd like to see changed outside of I also agree in having an overall commissioner of the entire system. But the other thing is the injury reporting. It's like Thompson Robinson's been dealing with an injury, but we have no idea what it was. They don't report that stuff.
Right.
So it's hard to really tell. Was it a leg or was it just a finger? You know what I mean? So it's we'll just have to live with it, And all right, let's switch over to UTEP. So UTEP at New Mexico, 9:30 p.m. start, one of the late games. UTEP's favored by 10, which is kind of a shot in the face at New Mexico State, playing at home at Aggie Memorial. So sunny, 94 degrees, mild winds. What are your thoughts about that game?
It's a game for sure. And we got to talk about it. No, I mean, New Mexico State, it's hard for me. The last thing that's here to my mind is the Tarleton State game where they lost 43-17 to an FCS team that was 0-1 going in. So I don't know what to do with them. And again, before that, I think 2 years ago, they're giving up something like 240 yards rushing per game. So for me, with UTEP, they have two players that just really stand out on their offense. One, Deion Hankins, and I think he's a rising star. And I think they're really going to feed him. And so he's a must-have in our lineups at night. I mean, I think he's who you build your lineup around, Deion Hankins, because he's just going to have a field day. And then the second one is Jacob Cowing. And when Tarleton State, when they scored 43 points, their leading receiver had 7 catches for 190 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he's a 6'3" dude, probably more of an X. And Jacob Cowing is more of your slot, faster, shiftier guy. But I still can see Cowing having a pretty big game here. And so I think any lineup at night, I mean, with the limited options that we're going to have in that slate and uncertainty for teams like San Jose State at wide receiver, I think Cowing and Hankins are the ones that we're going to want to have in our lineup for UTEP for sure.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's so difficult with New Mexico State that they're not playing in the FBS anymore, basically they are just an independent, but they play a lot of they played with the FCS teams this spring, right? Yeah. So I really and so we don't have a lot of numbers on them. They actually this spring they actually did quite well in run defense. Their issues were in coverage. But Hankins is the kind of guy that I just you don't think twice about him, and especially again in a game against an FCS team, you just put him in your lineup and you just move on. And what I really struggle with on this slate, this late 2-game slate, is at quarterback. I mean, we'll talk about San Jose State in a minute, but outside of a quarterback in that game, you've got basically a timeshare there with New Mexico State at quarterback. I mean, so do we go with Gavin Hardison as our other quarterback who, I mean, he wasn't that great last year, but the team seems to be behind him. And I mean, and it looks like a decent matchup on paper because that New Mexico State secondary was just playing terrible last year. So we'll see. It's a spread offense there. Dave Warner has come over just this year. So I'm hoping that Hardison is going to play a little better. With the scheme change. So, and I think, another thing is the wide receivers aren't that sexy either. So, I mean, I think you could roll out Cowing and Garrett there for UTEP, and just attack that New Mexico State defense. But all right, let's jump to the next game. We got another FCS team, Southern Utah, the Thunderbirds going up against San Jose State at 10 p.m. San Jose State's favored by 25, the 57.5 over under. It looks like it's going to be about 72 degrees there in San Jose. So it's going to be and negligible winds there. So I mean, okay, I know you don't have anything big to report on Southern Utah. So let's jump to San Jose State.
Yeah, well, we can talk about Southern Utah in a minute, because I do think there's a player we're starting there, maybe two, honestly,
Okay.
In the slate. But yeah, San Jose State, Nick Starkville, I think, is the main quarterback we have to start in the slate. And so I don't think there's really any question. We can analyze that all day, but it's just he's just the guy. And then I think it's figuring out who do you want to start among their wide receiver / tight end, right? You have Derek Deese, Isaiah Hamilton, and then you also have Jermaine Braddock. Jermaine Braddock and Hamilton were the two top receivers coming back from last year. Hamilton was great 2 years ago. Not really sure like what happened last year, why he got lost in the mix. But Hamilton and Deese are the two wide receivers that I think I'm going to be trusting in this matchup. I definitely think Deese could pick up a touchdown, and he's good for 4 or 5 catches and 60, 70 yards, which isn't bad in DraftKings where it's PPR format. And then Tyler Nevins. I mean, I might just leave him for you to talk about, because I think you like Tyler Nevins, or you have in the past. He was extremely explosive last year. So I think he could definitely do some stuff in this game. He's one that I would consider targeting at his price point.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you can put together a cash single entry without Starkle. Yeah, I don't love him. I'm definitely not taking him in CFF, but
right.
He's easily the top quarterback on the slate, which doesn't say much. And yeah, I mean, it's tough with that receiving group for the Spartans, because they don't have Bailey Gaither or Trey Walker anymore, who they relied on, in addition to Deese. So we know who the starters are. I mean, you could toss a dart at Terrence Lovell. He's also supposed to start in this one. But I'm not gonna vouch for him that in your cash lineups or anything. I think with the running backs, I do like Nevins. Nevins had some big early games there for him. It let me down a couple times toward the end of the year, but I think it's going to be like a 3-back rotation there, because this game's probably going to get out of hand at some point. Now, I will say Southern Utah's defense is really good, at least based on how they played during the spring FCS season. It was one of the top defenses out there, so we'll see how that translates against an FBS team, San Jose State. But Tyler Nevins, he's going to get his points. The only concern I have is just trying to squeeze everybody in there. But I still think you gotta go for him at 6,500 on DraftKings. But I think Kyrie Robinson and Shamar Garrett are going to get some touches as well. A guy that I'm excited about, like maybe the rest of the season. They did bring in Illinois wide receiver Trayvon Sidney, who was also a transfer from UCF or USC prior to that. So we'll see how he fits into the rotation. It would make a lot more sense if he was already named the wide receiver 1, but that's not the case. So it's really hard to trust him at this point. But okay, so let's talk about the 2 FCS teams here, New Mexico State and Southern Utah. So who are some of the guys that you're looking at with those teams?
Yeah, so we'll start with Southern Utah, surprisingly. I actually am intrigued by their quarterback, Justin Miller. I mean, he had a pretty good spring where 3 out of his 4 games, he scored at least 20 points, and he had a 29-point game and a 30-point game. Again, FCS competition. San Jose State does have a good defense, but they throw it 65% of the time. So, I mean, it's just pure volume. It's kind of like Houston Baptist last year, where if they're going to throw it that much, then they're going to do something throughout the game. And I just think with the questions, I mean, Hardison, I just don't trust at UTEP. And who knows who's starting for New Mexico State, and I don't know if we care in the long run. And so Justin Miller, if we're going to start another quarterback and he's $6,700, is the one that I would go with. And then one of his top wide receivers is Brandon Shanks. He's only $4,400, but he put up, let's see, he in 4 games last year, he had a 24-point game, a 22-point game, and a 30-point game at $4,400. And again, who knows? Maybe they don't do anything. But at the same time, in this slate where there's so many questions, and I want to fit in Nevins and Hankins and some of these higher price guys, Shanks is one that I'm considering for sure. And he didn't catch a lot of balls, but when he did, there were deep passes and they went for a lot of points. So that's what I'm looking at. New Mexico State, I mean, they're going to have to throw the rock around. I think Amari Samuels at running back, Michigan transfer. He's a guy. He's going to be splitting carries maybe with Jawan Price. But whenever you got a guy that I think was either a high 3-star or 4-star, and Amari Samuels going down to New Mexico State, he's somebody worth considering for us. And then wide receiver is a crapshoot, but Dominic Jacinto is one who plays a slot. He's at $3,000. And again, he's one that he's going to start. And he may allow us to put in some other guys a little bit higher. And if you got just 10 points, I mean, for a $3,000 guy, tripling our value. And I like that. So
yeah,
that's what I got there. What do you got?
All right. So one thing I want to note about this Southern Utah team, they have the DraftKings has Landon Meason listed at their highest price wide receiver there. He's not on the roster, so avoid him at all costs. Yeah, I'm not digging like super deep into why he's not on the roster, but yet he's listed here. So if I'm wrong, definitely point that out. But definitely not him. The one reason that I have concerns with your guy Shanks is that he's a deep ball threat. Right. He had those points, but they were all 2 of those games he averaged over 40 yards per reception. And San Jose State is a really good defense, probably the best defense in the Mountain West. They were especially good in coverage, so it'll be difficult for me to trust him, bringing in some big throws there. But it doesn't mean that I don't like him at all. But looks like, I mean, to me, if you're going to go with a receiver, I kind of like Lance Lawson. He's a big guy. He's their slot, and I think that's what they're going to have to do. If they're going to pass the ball with, if they want to open up the field for Shanks, they're going to have to throw the ball underneath, establish the run. So I think Lawson could be a guy that could get some PPR numbers there. And so to go back, so you like Miller better than Hardison. See, I don't like Hardison at all. I mean, he's one of the bottom 10 quarterbacks in all of college football as far as fantasy goes. The only reason that I'm going after him, though, is because he's going up against New Mexico, who, like I said, they actually had a decent run defense this spring. So, but their coverage was just horrible. Yeah. And like I said, I think you can get some value out of stacking Cowing and Garrett with him. Plus, you got Hankins, who can also catch the ball. So there's that. And then, as far as like New Mexico State, Amari Samuels, he had to sit out 2 years due to a transfer. I mean, I don't know what that is. Plus, he didn't play another year due to injury or whatever when he was at Michigan. And Jawan Price looked really good this spring, or at least he put up some good numbers. Of course, you can get Amari Samuels at a cheaper price. He's $1,400 less than Price on DraftKings. So it's a decision to be made there. And I'll just say this: you're not going to come away creating your classic lineup there on DraftKings with like this, just a feel of confidence like you do with the other lineup. But all right, so let's take a look at some of our against the spread picks. So I'll start. My first, like I mentioned earlier, no, I didn't actually, is the Nebraska to Illinois game. Last year when these teams played, Illinois crushed Nebraska 41-23. Of course, that was with Luke McCaffrey at quarterback, who actually he ran for some good numbers. He was good for us in DFS in that game. But then he threw 3 interceptions and he got benched by benched and replaced by Adrian Martinez, who Martinez is obviously the starter now, and he's got some job security. So I like that. I think that'll be big for Nebraska. But the fact that Illinois racked up 288 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground against Nebraska concerns me. They're bringing back all the same guys that did that damage too. So I just
Yep.
can't get over that beat down. So I'm not saying Illinois is going to win this game. I'm just saying I think it's going to be at least closer than 7 points. So give me Illinois and 7 points.
Yeah, man, it's hard to go against that. And I think if you look at the betting trends, right? I mean, a lot of people on Illinois. So it's hard to go against that. I mean, again, Adrian Martinez is Jekyll and Hyde. And so if Martinez shows up and he's not throwing picks or fumbling the ball, then I mean, I can definitely see them winning by a touchdown. But I don't know. I don't bet based on Adrian Martinez.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely choosing Illinois with you +7.
I'll never forget. We were doing our CFF draft in our industrial league that we've been in for. I think this will be our 6th year. And I remember our boy Andrew Katz. He came into the draft. He always makes like real gutsy moves in the first round. And he came in. I think it was like 2nd pick in the draft, and he wasn't even in the draft. And then his pick came up, and he was in there. 2 seconds later, he drafted Adrian Martinez as a true freshman and left. I was like, wow.
Man, I mean, that dude, he got Wan'Dale Robinson the next year, and then he's been touting Brandon Peters. He's all over this Nebraska-Illinois game.
Yeah, he is. He's a good guy, though, man. He's tough in CFF. I'll tell you that. He's
oh, yeah.
We've got a great league that we compete with, and we doubled the buy-in this year, so it's a lot of fun. We got a lot of money to distribute there, so I'm looking forward to that. We just finished that draft just the other day too.
Yeah.
So let's go. Do you have a game that you're liking outside of the Nebraska Illinois against the spread?
Yeah, I mean, I think Fresno State against Connecticut, even though it's 27.5. I like Fresno State. Like I said, DeBoer. I don't have the advanced stats in front of me. It was more talking to some friends that are pulling some stuff. But apparently Action Network has some stuff that says that about garbage time. And Fresno State leads is one of the top teams in playing their starters during garbage time. So that's when teams are up 21 points or more. And so McAfee, DeBoer keeping in Hainer and Cropper and Rivers. And if that happens, I mean, they're going to beat Connecticut by more than 27 points.
Yeah.
So that's a big one for me based on just kind of trends and advanced stats that we've seen out there and what we know Fresno State's capable of and just what we know UConn is capable of giving up.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So here are some of my thoughts in that game. It's so hard to trust 27.5 points, you know, even if it was Ohio State against Connecticut, I probably would. I mean, I would go Ohio State if you gave me 27.5 points. But it's just so many unknowns, especially when you got teams that are in in the group of 5, I mean, so we don't know much about Connecticut. I mean, they didn't play last year, but on top of that, they brought in a new offensive coordinator in 2019. So this is only his 2nd season, and he's already admitted this offseason or during camp that the offense, he doesn't even know what type of scheme they were going to run yet, and that it was still developing. So I'm not even going to throw his name out there. I can't pronounce it. Frank Giuffre, or I don't know, but so that concerns me. They don't even know what quarterback they're going to play with. They're going to rotate 2 guys. It's not even worth saying their names because I mean, it's not going to be useful. The only question I have about them keeping their starters in for the whole game, especially Ronnie Rivers, who I think is going to blow up today. Don't take that the wrong way. Is the heat 100 degrees? I don't know what the humidity and how it's actually going to feel. So it might not be as bad. And of course they're playing at home, so they're used to the heat and stuff like that. But I mean, there's negligible winds. So we can definitely expect Hainer to be airing it out to his guys there. But, I just wonder if the heat is going to maybe have them rotating Rivers out a little bit more, but so we'll see. But yeah, I definitely can't disagree with you there. So the other pick I like though is, we already talked about this Hawaii UCLA game. I mean, points are going to be dropped left and right. There's a reason that it's expected to have the highest total. Chip Kelly, I mean, UCLA, they played decent defense last year, but and they had a really good pass rush. They did. They lost a few guys though in the draft. I just they don't. Based off of the type of recruits that they bring in, we're not seeing UCLA playing that great a defense based off of their 4-star guys that they get a collection of each season. And I think that's more related to Kelly's play style. And I think that plays in perfectly into the run and gun the run and gun that Hawaii plays. And I mean, I just can't envision a scenario where Hawaii doesn't score with UCLA here. I think there may be some turnovers. Cordero's he's not an NFL prospect, at least not at this point. We said that a few years back about Zach Wilson, but then we all saw what he's become, and so we can't really know for sure what the future holds at quarterback, especially at quarterback, because that's where you have guys that just really emerge later in their careers when they get the reps and they start to understand coverages better. But this offense between Turner and Cordero, I just think they're going to score. So 17 and a half points, no way. Give me Hawaii and 17 and a half points there.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, we're agreeing on all this stuff, but man, it's hard to go against Hawaii. Like you said, in Cordero, he may not be an NFL prospect, but he is an amazing CFF quarterback, college fantasy quarterback. So, he's a playmaker, and that's what he does. And honestly, he's the type of dude that can get hot. So he's got a strong arm, and although he didn't throw it downfield a ton last year, he's got the capability to do it. But like you said, UCLA is a tough defense, but I do think they're going to score with them. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of what I love about both Turner and Cordero. There's a lot of outs for them. There's a lot of different ways for them to win. And so I think that gives you options as a play caller there. And it's going to be hard for UCLA to figure out what they're doing early on. So
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I definitely like that. I'm excited for that game, man. Just like you said, that's going to be the most fun game to watch.
Yeah.
But I also want to see Fresno. I think I want to see Connecticut. I want to see. It's like what are they going to do this year? I'm not even touching that game though, as far as like going after Connecticut guys. But I do like that backfield. And one little situation that we forgot to mention there with Connecticut is the backfield. So we like Kevin Mensah. I mean, I think you said in your article that he averaged 19 carries or 19 touches per game. I can't remember which. But there's a guy that they brought in as a transfer. What do you think about Robert Burns?
Yeah, Robert Burns. So as a Miami fan, I'm familiar with Robert Burns, and man, he was a 4-star recruit coming out, but he had, I think, 2 big major shoulder injuries and surgeries before he even got into college. And so although he was a 4-star recruit, he never really was able to come in and do much. And so he never made it past 4th on the depth chart. And then he kept injuring his shoulders again. So I just worry about what Robert Burns is just as a football player. And so I'm pretty confident in Kevin Mensah personally. I mean, he's a guy, he's a senior, 19 carries a game over 2 years. He's a known commodity. And it's hard for me to see them going away from him. Even in blowouts, they still fed him. But who knows? And I just haven't heard a ton about Robert Burns there, like him killing it. So, I mean, we're really going off of talent or past behavior. And I think, I had a mentor that once said, the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And so for me, I still have Miami Robert Burns here to my mind.
Yeah.
So he's hard for me to really rely on. And Kevin Mensah at $4,200, he has to hit 13, 14 points to hit value in a cash lineup. And so I like that personally.
Yeah. Okay. So my thoughts on Burns, it was a top 10 running back in the 2017 class. Yet, he's got how many carries to his name? 16 or I'm sorry, he's got 47 in 3 seasons with Miami. So yeah, I mean, just the injuries have kept him off the field. But here's the thing, man, I'm always I can never get past the Devy quality of a player, and it spills over into my CFF. Definitely, if you look at some of the rosters that I go after, I definitely correct it during free agency and bring in some more pure CFF guys. but I always end up with a lot of Devy guys on my CFF rosters because I bet
Yeah.
on talent. I bet on athleticism, and especially at the college level. And Burns, I love the numbers in this guy. He had a 42-inch vertical at the Nike opening. I mean, that is
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. That, and actually, the number one vertical at that combine was Amari Samuels, the New Mexico State running back, who is going to be playing his first snaps today after 3 years. So some explosive guys. So I mean, if Burns does get a chance, I mean, and if he has any of that explosiveness left, he could definitely get through the pile. But I still, like you said, so I think 2 years ago they didn't have anybody like Robert Burns, and so I think that partially played into feeding Mensa so much. But still, I don't see what Mensa has done wrong at any point in his career to not be the lead back. I still think he's going to get the most carries in this backfield. And here's the other thing: Mensa's $4,200, and we know he's going to be involved in the offense, and he's going to get a lot of touches. But Burns, even with all of his potential, is 3,800. That's only a $400 difference. You could squeeze in either or. And so, I mean, for me, I think I'm leaning more towards Mensa, but Burns is definitely a guy we want to see if he can stay healthy, because I'd love to see what he could do. I mean, with those numbers, if he could reproduce that at his pro day, he could get a shot. Probably a UDFA. But he could get a shot in camp with a team that needs some carries. So we'll see. We'll log him, pin him to the wall, and see what he does later. But let me jump over to a new thing that we have a partnership this year with Monkey Knife Fight at monkeyknifefight.com. They're a new DFS site, and they have some interesting college props that I just want to go over a couple that I like. One of them was that 70 on Morrison, but with the Gabe Ervin news, I mean, that doesn't do me any good. So I had to scratch that one. So I got one from the Nebraska Illinois game. Basically, you go in and you pair a couple of players, and you choose. They give you a stat, and you choose the over or the under. And I like Samori. How do you say it? Do you know, Josh? Samori Torre.
Yep.
Samori
I think
Torre.
That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
I like him for over on 49 and a half receiving yards. I hate trying to rely on Adrian Martinez, but that's why I'm trying to avoid the props on his passing yards. But I think Torre is going to get several looks in this game, and he was a ridiculous receiver at the FCS level. I think was it Montana? Is that where he's from?
Yep.
Yeah, and so I think he's going to get some numbers. And also, like Chase Brown, like I said, he ran for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns against Nebraska last year. So they have him paired with Torre, but they have Brown at 73 and a half rushing yards. I think he's still going to be the lead back there. Actually, I think he's going to have more of the share after Epstein. There was some question that whether Mike Epstein was going to just finish his college career, and then late in the process, he decided to come back to Illinois, because the NCAA gave everybody an extra year because of COVID.
Right.
So but I still think Chase Brown is firmly established as a lead back there. I think he gets over 73 and a half rushing yards. You pair those two together, anything you bet on it, you'll get a 2.5 times multiplier. And if you're feeling really lucky, you can go all the way up to a 15 times multiplier if you pair 5 different props together. I'm not going to go there. And then the second one I have is Hawaii at UCLA. I have a 3 times multiplier. You mentioned Kyle Phillips. So here's the thing about him. I've got him in several CFF leagues, and he's got some salivating athleticism. I think he's definitely going to be an NFL wide receiver. I think he's the kind of guy that's going to be better in the NFL because of the Dorian Thompson-Robinson. He's got a noodle arm. I mean, he's great athletically, but it's in his lower body. That's where we may see Dorian Thompson-Robinson switch over to slot receiver / H-back / running back in the NFL. I don't think he's going to play quarterback. And so that he's just not able to really take full advantage of his receivers. So Phillips, he's just kind of an underneath guy right now. And that's why they're tied in there. Dulcich is so valuable, but I just don't see, I don't know if Phillips is going to get as much, like I said, the passing defense for Hawaii was actually pretty good. It was top 15 last year, but their run defense is where the problem is. So I'm taking the under on Phillips at 61.5 receiving yards. He might get 5 or 6 receptions. I just don't know if it's going to go for a lot of yardage. And then
Yep.
the other one is just easy. I'm combining that with Calvin Turner Jr. at over 45.5 rushing yards. I mean, there's always a chance they might hold him under 45.5, UCLA,
Right.
and he'll do his work through the air. But I mean, this is a game where, and Vegas agrees, where a lot of points are going to be scored. If a lot of points are going to be scored, we're going to see Calvin Turner involved, and I think he's definitely going to do better than that. But so let's I want to finish off by seeing if we have any questions over in our college football chat. So definitely let us know. So one here, or definitely put your questions in there if you want us to answer any. So get them in there now. One is by my boy Darren. So his favorite
Yep.
play, 4,000 or below in the late 2-game slate. Josh, go ahead and look that over and see what you think.
Yeah. While I'm looking, I don't know if you have anything off the top of your head, but while I'm looking that over, really quickly on the Torre and the Brown, I love that.
Yeah.
That's an amazing pairing. And I think there's some questions around Omar Manning, whether he's even going to play because he hasn't had media availability, right? And and Torre, he had what, 89 catch, 1,300 yards, and 8 touchdown, I think, season at Montana just a couple years ago.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
He is a baller. So I'm, again, are we relying on these guys? But 49.5 yards, it would be hard pressed to not see him do that.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like that. 4,000.
That's tough.
Looking at 4,000 under.
It's tough because this is it's a questionable wide receiver group anyway. The guy, like I mentioned, you could throw a 3K dart at Terrence Lovell, at San Jose State wide receiver. The thing is that run defense for San Jose State, for Southern Utah, is actually pretty strong. I'm still gonna I still have Nevins in my cash lineup, but Lovell's a guy. But any of those receivers really, you could even go Trayvon Sidney at 4K if you're, but like I said, Southern, the Lawson play, Lance Lawson, their slot receiver, he's at 3.6K. And then for New Mexico State, one of their starters is what's his first name here? Isaiah Garcia Castaneda. So and he had a couple decent games, or one decent game during the spring, and he's apparently going to start. So anyone else that you see there? I guess if I had to pick one of my favorites, it would be probably Lovell at 3K, but he is going to start. So it's a punt play. But what about you?
Yeah, I like Lovell. I like what you said about Lawson earlier. I think what you're talking about with game script and just how the narrative is going to play out. I guess when we're getting the narrative, maybe that's not the most reliable, but I think Lawson could have a decent game for 3,600. Cordia is Wadley from UTEP. He's the backup to Hankins. We just talked about them feeding Hankins. Mm-hmm. But if for some reason they don't, or if New Mexico State really, that was just smoke and mirrors with their defense and wasn't really shored up in the spring of 2021, then Wadley's one that, he had some, 600 yards a couple of years ago. He's $3,300. Again, these aren't dart plays that I'm really confident in. Lawson, I'd feel more confident in, but Wadley's one that I think if you just need a real punt, he's one that's worth considering.
Yeah. So Darren, he changed that up a little bit, and now he says, well, flex will work. So we can look at some of the running backs that we like there. And one guy, so if you look at the Southern Utah depth chart, they have what's his name? Dan Christensen. And he's a smaller back. Which which is great for explosive offenses, but this is not one of those. So he could do something at 3K, but you can see on DraftKings that they have Thomas Duckett who's actually rated above him or is priced above him at 3.2K. And he ran for over 400 yards and 5 touchdowns, caught 19 passes in 2019. So he could be a guy there at 3.2K. And you mentioned Wadley. And then if we're going to believe in this blowout and San Jose State, which I do, San Jose's just running way out ahead, then the Garrett backup, Shamar Garrett, is a guy that you could go after if we think he's going to get enough touches. So those are probably my 3 guys that I would mention.
Yeah, I like those a lot. Those are great.
Yeah. So I'm not seeing any more questions. Let's see. Yeah, that's it.
Gary is typing. Hold on.
Gary's got one for us. Oh, great show.
Great show, guys. Appreciate it.
Gary's my boy.
Man, those monkey knife props, man, those look phenomenal.
Yeah,
that sounds exciting. We look forward to hearing more about those as we go along this season.
Yeah, definitely. And especially when we get into like a full week. So, we can really go in and handpick the props that we want to go after there. So, I'm liking those a lot. So, all right, man, that pretty much wraps it up. Have you seen any news come in any big news that we need to go over?
Let me check out some.
Yeah, you do that.
You want to talk for a little bit and maybe I can see if we got anything here?
Yeah, that'll work. You do that. And let's talk about some of the.
Oh, real quick.
Okay.
It doesn't look like there's a Brian Hightower's playing today.
Oh, wow.
You need to look at that up more.
One. Yeah.
Yeah. But we mentioned him earlier.
Yeah. Wow.
And I'll put something in the Discord when we get out here.
That might open some touches up for our boy Isaiah Williams. And Jafar Armstrong. I think in the game last year against Nebraska, Peters only threw for like 130 yards or something, but he actually rushed for a touchdown. So, good for him. I think Peters is another one of those guys. He could potentially be a career QB3 in the NFL just because of his size and because of his play style. He's a guy that's not looking to make a lot of mistakes. So, these types of guys are going after. Or the NFL teams are going after these types of guys, these game managers. So, just in a pinch type thing. And then they've got to throw it to somebody. And there's no way that they can just run the ball every snap. It just doesn't work that way in football. So we're gonna see him pass the ball. And I mean, if we get 5 or 6 catches and 60 yards out of one of these 2 guys, I mean, they're low priced. I think Williams is a bit higher, but definitely worth a look there, and definitely in GPPs for sure. So you keep looking at the news and see if you have anything else that we want to pass along.
It does look like Omar Manning is on the field and warming up. We mentioned that he was questionable, no media availability. So he's out there. I don't think that really changes much with Torrey, to be honest. But
I don't think so either. I was reading The Athletic this morning. I apologize. I don't have the author's name. I closed the link before I wrote it down. Yeah, and he was saying that Manning is going to be involved, but that Torrey and Martin have been the 2 guys this preseason. So those are the 2 guys we definitely want to go after over Manning, and they're priced that way. Manning is a lot lower than the other 2. I wish Xavier Betts would get into that rotation. He's got all that salivating athleticism, but he hasn't done anything yet. We can't trust him.
I know.
So, but so anything else you're seeing there on the news front?
I think that's it for now.
Okay.
I mean,
that's
what we got. Hopefully it's a relatively quiet day on that front, right?
Yeah. You never want to get those. Let's see, what is first game time? 1:39 or something. Let's see, what is it?
Right.
They changed it to 1:20. Okay, so they moved it up. We definitely don't want to get any news at 1:19 because it's difficult to get in there and get those things changed. But as we do hear more news, we'll definitely post that in our Discord. If you're not a subscriber at fantasypoints.com, you definitely want to get in on this. We go over. I mean, you definitely have heard the type of detail that we provide for this type of thing. Now, of course, we won't be able to go over every game on Saturday mornings like this, but we'll try to cover all the early games, so in the main slate. Definitely, no question, we'll cover every game on the main slate
Yeah.
for DraftKings and FanDuel. But this is the type of detail that we provide just for every type of offering, in fantasy football. So definitely want to get in on that. Maybe you don't trust us right away, but you know what? Go in and get a standard and a free. Check out some of the free stuff. I guarantee you'll be impressed. You'll definitely want to consider moving up that subscription. We also, we offer some free stuff here and there, and one of those is a free upgrade on your subscription, so you can always take advantage of that. But Josh, I really appreciate the time that you put into your work. I mean, it's phenomenal. Your DFS stuff is you definitely make me think every time I read it. So yeah, you just hush. Sorry, I got dogs. And so, I appreciate that, Josh. And
Yes,
we've known each other for so long. We've never actually even seen each other or talked to each other in person. So it's really cool to get to learn more about you.
Yeah, for sure, man. I got my Fantasy Points headshot and then put it up on Twitter. So for the first time in like 10 years, people actually got to see my face. So this is a coming out party, I guess.
Well, it's about time, because your stuff is phenomenal. I was telling the guys behind the scenes yesterday that one of the only guys in all of CFF that I truly fear going up against is you, because you're just you stay on top of everything. You're always making these insane calls, just plugging guys into your lineups. So definitely respect you there, and you've definitely treated us well with your DFS picks. So that's definitely something you want to check out. So this week we started at 11:30 due to the late start time, but on normal Saturdays, I don't think you'll be with us, right, next week, Josh?
I'll be there. Yeah.
Oh, you will be. Okay.
I'll be on next week. Yep.
Okay, good deal. So, or is it the following week that you'll be out?
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. So I'll have a guest host on 2 weeks, but yeah. So on normal weeks, when we have a full slate, we'll start our show at 10:30 a.m. so that we can lead you right up into game time with the breaking news and stuff like that. But that's enough for today. I think we've covered everything. So I hope you can join us next week. If you've enjoyed this free live stream, definitely come back for next week, and we'll talk to you then.
All right. Thanks.